Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Goaltending, where your why is bigger than your excuses. Today, we have an outstanding guest joining us to talk about professional relationships and specifically getting into networking, BNIs, mastermind groups, and talk about some growth there. But before I want to get into introducing our guest, just want to thank you all for allowing us to be a part of your journey. Thank you for tuning in. I want to encourage you to share today's episode because I know this is going to be an outstanding one to help people with their growth. So find some takeaways for yourself, share it with people you know it can help, drop a like, subscribe, comment with your thoughts and questions to join the conversation. And the main thing is, don't just listen for the information, actually find things you can take action on. So don't just listen, find the takeaways, take action. Now, to get right into our guest, after attending the University of Kentucky, he earned his real estate license and managed a boutique brokerage for several years before co-founding and running a local property management company. After selling his property management firm, he spent a decade in the property management industry with other local companies, helping them with everything from formation, foundational processes, training, management, acquisition, and scaling services. Then in 2018, he transitioned to business development for Paul Davis Restoration before becoming vice president of business development and marketing for the Junk Luggers of Kentucky in January of 2023. He's a wealth of knowledge with all that experience, and now he leverages his skills, his professional network to help others develop themselves and their businesses by offering one-to-one coaching, business consulting, fractional business development to small business owners and operators, as well as coaching young professionals on their journey to become executives, business owners, and to really elevate themselves. On top of all that, he still makes time to serve on the board of directors for several nonprofits. Such a pleasure to have you here. Dylan Curry, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And it sounds really good when somebody else says all of those things. So I really do appreciate you having me on and giving everybody a little bit of background. So thank you all so much.
Yeah, absolutely. You did all the work. When I was looking through the resume, I was like, I'm going to have to cut this down. We've done a lot of things. But that's what we look for. We really just want to leverage your knowledge today. So
awesome.
Basically, first, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah.
To share that experience. Let's get into, where did your journey begin, and did you think you would end up getting into coaching ever in that point?
No, absolutely not. I mean, that's a quick no. Truly never in my wildest dreams did I think I would ever be accomplished enough or have enough experience that other people would want to hear from me and learn potentially from my experiences and leverage some of those into their own lives and take a little bit, kind of what you said off the top of the show, just to take a little bit away from me and interactions with me to implement into their own business, into their own lives in order to have such an impact. So no, I never thought I would get into coaching in any way, shape, or form.
So then, where did the journey begin and kind of what ended up leading to deciding to coach?
Well, truly, I think it's been the culmination of all of the experiences. I take a little bit away from all the different leaders that I've gotten to work with over the years, good and bad. I think we can all say that you can take something away from the bad ones as well as you can take away from the good.
Yeah.
I've had my fair share of both. I think everybody probably listening to this can agree and has probably had a shared experience in that as well. But I think it was just all of the things, like I said, compounding on top of one another, meeting new people, moving into new areas, with the property management companies that I was lucky enough to work for and learn from and get to do my thing with, I did move quite a bit. And so, it can be intimidating to move into new areas, not knowing anybody, have to restart your network, having to, find new resources, and all of that. And so I've always kind of taken it with, a big grain of salt and also as a new experience and gotten excited about it instead of sitting at home and keeping myself locked up in my apartment or my house or whatever with my pets. I got out there and met people and shook the hands and kissed the babies and did the thing. And it's just been one after another. One door closes, another window opens. You climb through it, you learn, you expand, you grow. And I think it's just been doing that over and over and over again for the last, oh goodness, I don't want to say how old I am on this podcast. Good. Let's call it 15 to 20 years of professional experiences. Yeah, has led me to where I am today. And, I don't know, next year I could be doing, looking down the barrel of something completely different. And I think that's what I really enjoy about the whole process of it is, meeting other people, following, getting excited about what they're doing or having something that they're doing, get me excited about something that I could do. And then just kind of following, that hot hand, down different rabbit holes and figuring it out as I go and hopefully learning something new along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I can really relate to the moved around a lot as a kid, got in the military, did a lot of having to adapt to new environments.
Yep.
But I've also found that that's really a big thing that contributes to growth, that really helps. Where you talk about it kind of required you to build new relationships, to have to. So it puts you in an uncomfortable situation, but that discomfort led to growth.
That's right. Yeah. You don't grow where you're comfortable, right?
Yeah.
You only grow where you're not comfortable. And I think it's just one of those two, the adaptability, I think is really huge. Being able to be adaptable. That's one thing that employers look for. It's one thing that you need to have a little bit behind you when you get out there into the quote unquote real world, and be able to adapt to the things that come your way, because you can't control, the things that happen to you. You can only control the way you respond to those things. So if you can master that or have some version of mastery to that, you create a lot of opportunities and create avenues.
Yep. And I would say it's a practice. Earlier on in life, you don't always respond as well. And then as time passes, you learn from each experience, each event. And over time, you get a little bit better. And then eventually you just get to where more often than not, you respond better.
I don't think there's any doubt to that. Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's an incremental growth process is the way I look at it. Yeah. And that's what I tell, the people that I work with, every day is going to be a little bit different. The challenges that come your way as a business owner or operator are going to be different every single day. But what I've learned, through some of my shared experiences and working with a lot of different people and having conversations and not being afraid to ask, tough questions, is that we all end up experiencing a version of the same thing. We think that we're the only person experiencing that thing or have ever experienced that thing. And in reality, that's not true. We all kind of go through the same trials and tribulations, especially, as a business owner and operator, like I said, and you can lean on and leverage your relationships and your network, although they might not work in the same field or industry that you work in. They probably have similar business challenges that they have had to overcome. And so they can certainly share with you how they've been able to do that. And then you can take something away from that, hopefully, that you can implement into your own processes in order to overcome an objective or a challenge.
Oh, yeah. And so, but on the coaching piece, I really love the story that you shared with me and kind of what got you started in terms of helping a friend out and how that opened your mind to your potential to coach. So can you share a little bit of that story, or like how you helped them, what that did for your mindset and your confidence to start coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. A really good friend of mine, a young professional, is in the real estate industry. We ended up coming together, and just by happenstance, I got invited into a referral group that he happened to also be in, and we immediately hit it off and became, really, quick friends. Like I said, he's younger. He's trying to figure out his way in the world, trying to figure out how he wants to, tackle the real estate industry. And there's so many different avenues that you can go down within that industry. And, he's just trying to figure it out and kind of, quote unquote, feeling his way through the dark a little bit.
Yeah.
And, so I kind of saw myself in him, to a degree. He is probably, 20 or not 20. He's probably 10, 12 years younger than I am. So, we are on different paths currently, but I've walked that path that he is currently on. And so it was great to be able to share with him some of my shared experiences and hope that he would be able to learn from them. And he has, and he is a quick study, smart. He's driven. He's got, really terrific thought processes to the way he handles life and the way he handles business. And, through that, he just said, hey, I want to hear more about what you've done and how you've done it. And I would love for you to give me advice. And I was at first taken aback. I was like, you don't want to get my advice. I mean, I stumbled and bumbled and fumbled my way through many a thing. Right. And, the last thing you probably want to do is take my advice on anything. But he was like, no, I really do. And that was humbling and flattering and all of the things. And so he and I, started kind of communicating more intentionally about his business and ways to help his business and ways to help him personally grow and develop himself. So that way he would be in a better position to take advantage of opportunities that may come his way.
Yeah.
And so, we just got, like I said, intentional about it and started planning, bi-weekly, meetings, sit downs. We get in front of each other every 2 weeks for at least an hour, hour and a half. Sometimes they go a little bit longer. We'll get off the rails a little bit, but, sit down over coffee, sit down over food, and have a conversation, a really candid conversation about the goal and the thought. And sometimes it's just an idea. Sometimes it's this is happening and how do I navigate? And by working with him and having those types of conversations, he was the one really who was like, I think you should do this. And I was like, what do you mean do this? And he was like, you should charge money and have people pay you for this advice. I mean, this is almost priceless to me. And I know if you started a business and legitimized it, I would pay you for it. And that was really the light bulb of really, that's hard to believe. I never once thought, back to your initial question, that I would get into a coaching capacity with anyone. Mm-hmm. So just to have those types of conversations and it turn organically into, a coaching opportunity, a one-on-one coaching opportunity was really terrific. And then, now I've got, a handful of coaching clients, anything from realtors to I've got a gentleman who owns a moving company, a gentleman who owns a plumbing company, an attorney. And so it's a nice wide, swath of different industries, different professions, different skill sets, different educational levels. But like I said earlier, they all have the same business problems and challenges that they're trying to overcome. And so, although they are different, we're still talking about very similar things.
Yeah. Do you think there was some imposter syndrome there, early on in getting started? Did you just, because it sounds like you just had that doubt of what qualifies me, and I'm a fan of Ed Milet. I don't know if you've heard of him before. He's a podcast host as well, does a lot of other things. But there was an episode and the guy that he had on said, no one is more uniquely qualified to help the person you used to be than you.
Boy, that's a good one, isn't it? Yeah, wow.
That really stuck with me. That's what I heard in that story where you saw yourself in him. And like you said, we're all sharing a human experience.
Yep.
So we have so much to pass on to someone else when we're maybe on a different path, but we have experienced some of those things that we can pass on the knowledge. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I think, the imposter syndrome is definitely real. Honestly, with the coaching, especially early on, because it was just kind of he and I, having those conversations, I didn't really feel the imposter syndrome in that scenario. Mm-hmm. Just because, again, I had been there and I had done it. And so all I really was doing was sharing my own experience.
Right.
And so all I was, recounting, memories, recounting situations and things that had happened. The imposter syndrome really set in when I established the first Mastermind group that I operate and actively a part of, but also moderate at the same time. And I love being a part of that group and having that group, in on my calendar as something that I do as a monthly thing. And once I started forming that group, I have former CEOs in that group. I have business owners and operators in that group. I've got generational business owners in that group. People who have started multiple businesses and sold multiple businesses, people who started one business and are extremely successful in their field. And then here I was, the guy who just was like, I want to do this. And so, that was really when the imposter syndrome set in, because I remember specifically I have my own personal business coach as well. And I remember reaching out to my business coach and saying, we need to have like almost an emergency meeting, because I'm about to put together the very first mastermind group, or I had put the group together. We were about to actually do our very first meeting.
Yeah.
And we were about to do that. And I had it all kind of agenda'd and it written down, and I had great ideas of what I wanted to do. But that's kind of when it hit me. It's like, why would these people who are unquestionably more successful in their fields than I am in my field even, why would they join me and be in this mastermind group and listen to me and listen to that and have me moderate it and partake? And that was really when it set in and started.
Yeah. So you started, from my understanding, you've started several mastermind groups since getting started. They've been tremendous, from the growth, the involvement, the people wanting to be a part of it. So let's just spend some time talking about those, but also will you explain the difference between masterminds, BNIs, and networking groups, just to kind of level the playing field?
Yeah. So I think my first foray into something like that was through just traditional networking. In a business development capacity, obviously one of my goals and responsibilities is to, create relationships that hopefully one day we can leverage to turn into job opportunities, work opportunities, create revenue, obviously generation for my companies. And so you get into the traditional networking. So just going to happy hours, young professional events, chamber events, associations and groups that are a part of the verticals and the segments of the market that you go after to try to earn business. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of where it started, was just networking within those groups and having very, candid, open conversations with people in those networking, but being intentional about what I was trying to do, which was, again, create a network, grow a network, create friends and relationships that hopefully can, help myself, and also I could be a help to them. Mm-hmm. And that then kind of jumped into, hey, we have this referrals group. Would you like to come to a referrals group meeting? And, there's a lot of different styles of referral group and ways that they operate, and levels of severity, I think is probably a good way of putting it. And, those groups are different in their intention, so they are very intentional about what their purpose and what their goal is. And their goal is to bring a group of people together from different industries in an exclusive capacity in order to try and take your network and, I guess, share it with the other people in the room. And hopefully in that way you can send quote unquote referral jobs or job opportunities to those other people in that group. Mm-hmm. And they have their place. Again, they are intentional with exactly what it is that they are doing. I personally I don't want to say like them. I do like them. I don't know if they are the right setting for my personality. I think that's the best way to put it. Yeah. Because there are a lot of people who have done them for a long time and are successful with them and receive referrals from them and are able to generate great business growth from a referral group. Mm-hmm. I've always been in a kind of a different niche-y, style of industry. And so, I am out there focused on my business growth, not necessarily, oh, that's right, this person in my referral group, I should refer them this and this and this. Now, I do that organically by all means. That's my favorite thing about having a terrific network, is hearing people who have a challenge or an issue or something and being able to say, I've got a guy for that, or I have somebody I can connect you with, or you need to talk to this person that I know because they're terrific and they can help you with that challenge. I love that. And so I love to refer when it is organic. Mm-hmm. I don't like the artificial stress of making sure that every time I go into a referral group meeting, I have a list of referral opportunities for these other people in the room. So that's kind of networking, and then launched me into referrals groups. And then again, from that experience of the referral group and understanding kind of my personality and the way that I like to operate, I knew that there's just the longevity of a referral group for me just really isn't there. Like, I'm going to burn out before I, really get to see any ROI on a referral group. Yeah. So that led me into saying, well, I like the setting of getting together with people and having conversations about business, and hearing what their challenges are and hearing what their needs are and hearing, what it is that they're looking for and why they're looking for those things. So in what other way can I create a structure where those conversations can happen and happen freely and naturally, and where we don't have the artificial stress of sending a referral back and forth. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of where the mastermind idea came from. And so, I kind of started plucking some people from my network, other people that I've been in referral groups with, other people that I just network with or see quite often. And then, people that other people know, so I want to expand that sphere, right? So I'm not just trying to, keep a tight bubble. I want to also meet new people and grow my network as well. So I kind of brought in the first handful. And then after that, I said, who do you think would also benefit from being in this mastermind style group? And so I kind of tasked the other people in the group to bring someone else with them, so to speak, or to speak up and say, I think that this person would be great and this is why. And so it was just like, great, that person sounds, duly qualified and all of the things, please bring them in. And so we started, forming these mastermind groups, and we get together with an intention of talking about how we can help one another overcome business challenges that we're currently going through or that we see on the horizon, and pulling from our shared experiences in order to help one another, either with resources to overcome those challenges or directives and objectives that they can take and implement to overcome those challenges. And then we also talk about new business ideas, which I really like because I like to talk about all kinds of pie in the sky things and ideas. And so I really love to hear some of the creative thoughts and ideas that the other guys and men and women in these groups have. And it kind of gets my creative juices flowing. So I've been lucky enough that people have stayed with me and have, continue to come back, which is terrific. And I've actually got a handful of people kind of waiting in the batter's box right now. I'm waiting to get a handful more before I form another group. I have a kind of an ideology on the size of them. And so I try to make sure that I have the size in place before the group gets formed. I like them kind of anywhere between 7 and 11, 12 people. I think any larger than that, you get into a situation where people become spectators and other people become contributors. And to me, everyone in that group is there for a reason and there for a purpose, and they have their own experiences, and those experiences need to be brought to the table. Mm-hmm. And so with the smaller groups, it makes it to where organically those people have to share, or there's kind of dead air, and we don't let that happen. Yeah. I don't let that happen. In my moderation, I kind of go around the horn with all of our questions, all of our objectives, and I make everyone speak no matter what. Even if they feel as if they don't have something to share, when you kind of prompt them with some questions, all of a sudden they start to share, and all of a sudden they actually had something pretty impactful to say. Right. And so I think that's why it's really important to keep the group smaller, so that way everybody can share and have that experience and hopefully learn something.
Oh, yeah. And I love the idea of a mastermind group because I just truly believe that you can learn something from anyone.
100%.
Like any person that you come in contact with knows something that you don't. You have to be open-minded to it sometimes to receive it, but to put yourself in the position to be around other minds, to open your mind to hear what they have to say, what they have to contribute, what their experiences are. You can always find something to take away. Just like I said at the beginning of this episode, to find a takeaway from today. Yep. In every situation, you can find those takeaways. So I love the mastermind group concept for that. Would you say, kind of hearing this, would you say partially on what type of group, whether it's a mastermind, a BNI, a referral group, networking group, part of it, of which one is most beneficial to you depends on your personality style and the industry that you're in?
Yeah, I think both of those things. And then I think also what your end game is, right? Like before you go into any scenario, no matter what it is, one of my favorite adages, a plan without, or a goal without a plan is a wish, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you go into something without a goal or an objective of what you want to get out of that event, whatever that may be, a referral group, a networking opportunity, whatever, and you don't have a goal of what you want to pull out of it, then you're just there, and you're just doing the thing without any intention. And so I think it's what the answer to your question is what is your ultimate intention? What is your goal? Are you there to grow a network? Are you there to make friends? Are you there to find a lover? Are you there to, create business acquaintances? Or do you need some vendor or contractor or product or whatever to take your business opportunity or your company to the next level? And are you there in that room looking for that thing? And so networking groups, referral groups, and mastermind groups are all beneficial in their own way, but it's about what it is you're trying to do. And so that's where I would start. Look at where you want to be or what that goal is, and then reverse engineer how you get to that goal. And then you can kind of pick and choose or select which one of those groups you think best helps you accomplish it.
Oh, yeah. No, that makes sense. So what would you say is maybe best or one of the best takeaways or lessons that you've learned from running the mastermind groups?
That's a great question. I think probably the most impactful is going back to a couple of things that we've already a little bit touched on. Everybody has something to contribute, regardless of if they think they do or not. And if you can ask open-ended questions or prodding style questions to help get them there and help get them to open up and speak, sometimes you just need them to talk, and all of a sudden the words are going to come out and you're going to be able to take something from that. If you let them go, I don't have anything to say on that, and you just pass to the next person, you're completely bypassing an opportunity to learn something from somebody.
Right.
And so I think ultimately it's, trying to make sure that you give everyone their opportunity to speak, and be intentional about listening more and speaking less, which I definitely have to do. I think probably everybody on this thing's like, is this guy done talking yet? Because I can talk, and I've always been able to do that. And so early on, I would always, you're waiting for people to stop so then you can speak. And I think my biggest takeaway in the last handful of years is listening with intention to learn, and not just waiting for my opportunity to talk. And that, I think, is the biggest thing that I have learned in these mastermind groups, or that has been reinforced to me in these mastermind groups, because I am certainly not the smartest person in that room by any measure, and I am there to learn. And so I want to give other people opportunity to speak so I can listen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a great takeaway. I don't think that could be overstated enough, the importance of intentional listening.
Yes.
Like, don't worry about what you have to say. Doesn't matter. And there's other things that come along with that. One is you can actually receive the information that way if you're not just focused on what you're going to say next. But it also, it can reinforce relationships with those people to see that you truly care. It shows them that you care about what they have to say when you can listen intentionally like that. So that's a great point.
And, once those people, people might be shy, right? Or, everybody's got a different personality. Everybody comes from a different walk. And so, like I said earlier, if you can kind of just get them warmed up to speaking, then it becomes a little bit more natural and organic, and then their thoughts start to flow. And that's when the magic happens, is when people just start, expressing their thoughts and their feelings and bringing their experiences to the table and sharing those things. That's when the magic happens.
Oh, yeah. All right. So I want to bring this up because when we first met, I loved a piece of the conversation that we had so much that I was like, oh, we're going to talk about this on the show.
Oh, no.
So
I'm going to preface this with, we each had a beer in our hand, and so there's no telling what you're about to say right now.
Well, so, first off, loved the conversation in general because it was growth oriented automatically. And so that's not always something that you get to come across whenever you first interact with somebody. But that's what really made me want to bring you on tonight, because I saw that, that growth mindset in you. And you asked me a question that really stuck out in my mind, I thought was worth discussing. That is, you asked, what do you look for in a podcast? Because we started talking about podcasting.
I love podcasts.
And so I was like, all right, the question challenged me a little because I spent a long time listening to a lot of different professional development podcasts. But back when I first started listening, I rarely listened with intention to take action. just like I mentioned at the beginning of this. I'd listen for, new information that I hadn't heard, but I'd either sit on the information or I just enjoyed it in the moment, and then it just went in one ear and out the other.
Fair.
And so it was years of that until I started to realize I was taking way too long to act on the information that I was learning. So I started to figure out what things I wanted to know, or like questions specifically that I wanted answered, so that I could start to become more well-rounded, so that I could start to, grow the knowledge that I needed. And so let's say, for example, like if there was a day that I lacked motivation, I'm going to put on something I know is like an uplifting, motivational type of podcast. If I was looking for something on fitness and nutrition, or something that I wanted to understand about tracking macros or supplements or something like that, there's podcasts out there for that, and I would seek that information specifically. So long story short, I started listening with intention, just like you were just talking about, and your question reminded me of that night. So I wanted to bring it up to get you to share some about what you look for in a podcast and why.
Ooh, now you're turning the table on me, huh? I listen to a really wide variety of podcasts, and I think that to me is what I look for. I would tell anybody, I would describe myself as a nerd. I am a nerd. I love learning something new. Like the goal every day is to learn something new every single day. And you don't do that when you're just reinforcing your beliefs that you already have. And so I'm constantly looking for new types of people to listen to and hear from, and experience levels. I like I love working with my young professionals because they bring something to the table in a different mindset than I have on almost everything, because they are from a different generation. They have different experiences. And, I'm old enough to where I remember before we had the internet and a computer and all of those things. And, now, these kids are, they're proficient with an iPad when they're 5, 6, 7, whatever, however old they are. When they get their hands on one, they immediately pick it up and they're, quick as attack with it. And, and so it's just from the different walks of life and the way that you were raised and where you were raised and your socioeconomic background and all of those things, you have different experiences and something different that you're able to bring to the table. And so that's what I look for. And when I'm really looking into podcasts is I want to hear from someone very different than I've heard from in the past. And so, I have podcasts where I listen to, Ivy League educated, tenured professors, and they're obviously extremely smart and educated and all of the above. And then I listen to podcasts from guys who spent 15 years in federal prison, just because total opposite ends of the spectrum. Right. And it's amazing how when you listen to their stories, similar to what I was saying earlier, although they come from a different walk of life, they've had different things, they've accomplished different things, they kind of are talking about the same things a little bit. Or they are able to at least express their different point of view and experience, and I'm able to take a little bit of something away from that, to hopefully implement into my own life to make me smarter, make me better, make me more well-rounded, make me more patient, make me whatever. And so that's kind of my goal is, to your point, podcasts are almost like a Google at this point. Like you can look for a podcast that's going to teach you just about anything now, which is amazing. And so it's not just how do I do X, Y, and Z and pump that into Google and get step-by-step instructions, because obviously life is so much more complicated than that. And so it's not, I'm not listening to podcasts the same way I watch YouTube, which is to learn how to do something I don't know how to do. I listen to podcasts with the intention of, I want to hear from someone else, or I want to listen to somebody smarter than me, or with different experiences than me, or that come from a blue collar, that do a blue collar job where I do kind of I guess now a white collar job, or whatever, however you want to, dictate that. But I am just constantly seeking new types of people to learn from, regardless of what they do for work.
Yes.
I think is the way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I had a friend of mine tell me about this concept, and I'm not sure if it came from a book or another source. So I feel bad that I don't know the source if it did come from somebody. Not trying to plagiarize, but he basically told me about the idea of turning your car into a university. That through listening to audiobooks and podcasts, in the amount of time that you spend in your car, you could gain the equivalent of a college degree.
That's right. Micro learning.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And really, if you add up all the time you spend in your car, if you add that up, you could consume so much content that can help you grow.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
No, there's absolutely no doubt. That's something, in my previous job with Paul Davis Restoration, we covered a really large area, and I was in my car all the time, putting in the windshield time, going and face-to-face, business to business, networking and opportunity. And so that's where I picked up kind of doing that as well. Mm-hmm. I just was like, if I'm going to be in this car, I cannot listen to the same 90s country that I've been listening to for 30 years, nonstop. I need variety. Mm-hmm. And I crave variety and different things. And so I kind of implemented that myself. And I was like, well, if I'm going to be in the car like this, let's find interesting things to listen to. And let's learn something that I don't know. Let's hear someone speak on something that I know nothing about at all. And so I've kind of implemented a very similar situation. I drove, a little bit over an hour to get here tonight. And on the way here, I listened to 2 different podcasts, 2 different varieties of podcasts even, because they're fascinating. And these people are interesting and smart and experienced in things that I am not. And so I just really appreciate and enjoy learning from other people in that way. Right. And then recently I've become more of a reader. Mm-hmm. I will raise my hand and tell you I didn't read a single book in high school or college. Didn't do it. I didn't know notes. Yep. I didn't own a backpack until I went to college. That's a funny story. I was one of those kids. I did the homework in class before I ever left. I never took a book home. I skirted through high school. Yeah. It was just the easiest experience of my life. I know a lot of people that is not their experience, and I'm not trying to brag or rub that in. It's just the way I was. And I'll never forget, I went to UK and I went to go buy all of my books for very first semester. And they were a pile of books, and I picked them up. I'm like, whew. These are heavy, and I've got a long way to go back to my dorm. And I remember I picked them up, and I was like, kind of struggling with them.
Doing the walk.
Yeah. And the guy at the bookstore was like, do you have a backpack? Like, why don't you put those in a backpack? And I was like, I don't have a backpack, actually. And I was like, you guys sell backpacks here? He's like, yes, we're a campus bookstore. Of course we sell backpacks. And I was like, can you please direct me to the backpacks? And so he's like, that way. And so I go over, pick one up. I still use it to this very day, actually, and put all my books in there and huffed myself back up to my dorm room, broke the sweat and huffed and puffed my whole way. But that's how I bought my literal, as an adult, my very first ever backpack. And, yeah, so that was something. So I never, like I said, was not a reader. I think I probably prided myself on never actually having to read a book and be able to complete homework, which is probably not something to brag about. But just recently, in the last probably 3-4 years, books have become really integral to my life. I am intentional about making sure that I read at least 30 minutes every single day, no matter what. And maybe it might not be 30 minutes in one span. It might be 10 here, 15 there, 5 there. But I am extremely intentional about making sure that I get at least 30 minutes of reading in every day. I find that I am better at doing it in the morning than I am at night. Same way with working out. I'm better at working out in the morning than I am working out at night. Yep. And so I've just implemented that into my processes I make sure to read. I love a hard actual book in my hand. Yeah. I've got a couple on my iPad and whatever, and that's fine, but it's just not the same. And then just with my kind of learned love of reading, I've gotten into Audible. And so I've got an Audible account. And to your point, when I'm in the car, it's a podcast or it's a book on, Audible that I'm typically listening to. My music, my Spotify Wrapped is not impressive at all. And people will be like, you only listen to that amount of music every year? Like, are you crazy? And the answer is if there was one for my podcast, it would be crazy. Yeah. They'd be like, how do you have time to do anything else? You listen to so many podcasts would probably be their question for me at that point. But so it is always a podcast or an audiobook most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, most of the time.
I got to say that guy in the bookstore, salesman quality. He saw a
winner.
need.
Yep. For sure. For sure.
And he capitalized.
And I didn't buy a cheap backpack. I bought some, North Face, some odd or another, something. It was $100 and something, and this was years ago. And I spent way too much money on it, but it was like the only one I liked. And I was like, well, if I'm going to buy a backpack for the first time, I'm going to pick one I like, So that's what happened. But yeah, salesman for sure. That guy. I'm sure he's done big things since graduating.
Now I got to say on the reading aspect, not quite the same situation, but I hated reading, especially through high school. I think I liked reading like really early on childhood, completely fell out, did not like reading anymore. And I think a big part of it was losing autonomy to choose what I wanted to read.
Fair.
Because it was, you go into a class or like you're reading this and giving me a book report, I completely lost interest in reading.
For sure.
It was not until I think around my senior year in high school, I had an English teacher that said, you all are going to write a paper, but you're going to choose what book you write this paper on.
Okay.
And I was kind of lost to begin with. I didn't know where to start. I was like, I haven't picked a book for myself in so long. I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
That was kind of sad. If you actually think about that, like I didn't even know how to pick out a book at that point because it had just been, you're going to read this.
For sure.
We're going to have you read. So I did lose that interest for a long time. But when I started to find that I could find things that I'm interested in, choose things that I want to learn about, then it became like, oh man, this is really fun because I'm gaining so much knowledge in areas that I'm interested in or that are helping me grow in ways. So great points that you brought up on that.
I think it's really important too, is, following the path that you enjoy, right? We do so many things in our lives growing up and through school. And, we spend 18 plus years of raising our hand to ask to go to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden you're thrusted in and all that you have, the paralyzation of choice, almost to a degree. And you don't know what to do with it. And so following the hot hand of the things that you like and just kind of digging in deep and whatever, I think that's really important for people, because I think a lot of people try to be proficient at a lot of different things, and you don't have to be, like you don't, there are people for that, I think that's the biggest takeaway is you don't have to learn how to diagnose yourself on WebMD. You can just go to the doctor, kind of thing. You don't have to watch YouTube videos to learn how to do every DIY project. There are contractors, I don't know how to work on a car. I don't want to know how to work on a car. The thought of it is intimidating enough. And so I go to a mechanic, type of thing. And so just whatever that thing is that, stokes your fire, do it and do it all the way. And don't worry about trying to be multiple and be, the master of all, just be the master of one thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very good point. Now we touched on the biggest, kind of lesson or takeaway from the mastermind groups. What's been one of the biggest things you've learned from coaching specifically?
Similar to the mastermind groups, honestly, because, I feel truly, I kind of feel in my mastermind groups that I don't want to say I'm coaching everybody at one time, but like moderating it, kind of, I'm in the driver's seat a little bit. And so similar to the coaching or similar to the mastermind, the coaching on a one-to-one scale is, I think, the old adage of not judging a book by its cover, truly. people are so complicated and so complex and have so many experiences that they bring to the table that they are just harboring, inside of themselves.
Yeah.
And you don't know all of those things, and you can't possibly make an assumption about what they know or don't know or have experienced or haven't experienced based on what they currently do for work or the clothes that they're wearing or the car that they're driving or any of that. And, so I think, as kind of cliche as it sounds, the one thing from coaching is that I've learned as I start peeling the layers back, to, people who, this guy who runs this moving company, he is so unbelievably insightful in a multitude of different ways, that just, again, allowing him opportunities to talk has created some really terrific dialogue and has taught me a lot of different things. And so, I guess that kind of folds back into what I learned, through the mastermind groups, which is allowing people to talk. But in the coaching, it's not only allowing people to talk, but I think maybe my biggest takeaway there is learning how to ask really good questions. I think is probably the thing there, because you can ask closed questions, you can ask open-ended questions, you can ask very pointed questions, you can ask questions to try to derive what you want to hear, or you can ask questions that allow those people to just speak freely. And so learning how to ask good questions has been probably my biggest takeaway on the coaching, because you are tasked with a question, answer, a question, big dialogue, type of scenario. And so, and there are those people who want to stay closed up or don't think that, their experiences hold weight or whatever the case is. And so learning how to ask really quality questions to try to pull that out of them so that way they will speak and can speak on something that they're comfortable with or that they have detailed knowledge about, has probably been my biggest takeaway from the one-on-one.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think a lot of times with asking the right question, it leads people to their own answer.
That's right.
Like instead of coming to you and asking for answers, they're coming to you and you're asking questions that lead them to answers so that they're able to, I think I go back to autonomy. Like it keeps them autonomous by asking the right question and them finding the answer.
I agree. And a lot of times too, people will they're coming. What I've found in the coaching is they'll ask me questions, and all they're really trying to do is they're trying to validate what they already believe or think, right?
Yeah.
And they're trying to be like, are you gonna agree with me on this, or are you gonna push back? And if you push back, I'm gonna get defensive. And so the minute they start, we start having this, and all of a sudden I realize like they're getting defensive about the answer. I'm like, oh, they've asked that question because they've asked it that way, that question that way, because they were hoping I was going to respond this way, which was going to validate some preconceived notion that they had, or validate their thought process on something. And so, so it is really, I think, important to ask quality questions. I like asking hard questions. I think that's probably my favorite thing and sometimes they're a little uncomfortable, a little bit. But when you kind of rock somebody off a center, that's kind of when you're able to get underneath of the skin a little, or find out, what their true motivations are, or, get them out of their comfort zone to bring it back full circle. So that way, then they have a growth, mindset, or they've been able to grow based on the dialogue or the question that was asked.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so this kind of ties back into saying no one's more uniquely qualified to give the old version of you advice than yourself. So what's one key to success, or like one piece of advice that you would give to the younger version of you?
Get out of your own way, I think is the answer. There's no doubt about it. To really, again, to bring it back full circle to the question that you asked in the beginning, kind of how did I go about getting into it, or did I ever think that I would get into it? And I was very quick to answer absolutely, unequivocally no. And that was because for years, maybe decade, I was my own worst enemy. I really talked negatively to my own self And that negative self-talk kept me from being able to do things that I either wanted to do or didn't feel qualified to do or felt like an imposter trying to do. And so I just didn't, and I think there's probably a lot of people out there and who have a shared experience in that way of they don't think they're good enough, or they don't think they're qualified enough, or smart enough, or handsome enough, or rich enough, or whatever enough, whatever that thing is. And they use that thing as the crutch to why they can't do X, Y, or Z, or why they can't be successful, or why they can't start their own business. That's the one that I hear quite a bit, because I'm working with a lot of people who either A, want to break out and be their own boss and be an entrepreneur, or the people that have finally done that. And when I start talking to them about, what it took to do it, I hear a very similar tale of, oh, I wanted to do this for 10 years, and I just didn't because whatever, fill in the blank for your excuse, right? Family, or the job, or the this, or my parents, or, blah, 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 blah. And once you, can get past that hurdle, which is enormous. I mean, your brain is extremely powerful and plays dirty tricks on you. And once you can certainly not master it, but accept it, I guess is probably the right word there. Accept that you are good enough. You are smart enough. You are capable enough. If you leverage your network, if you ask good questions, if you listen to people who are smarter than you, teach you something that you didn't already know, you're going to be able to piecemeal all that, enough of that together to do whatever that thing is that you want to do. And you are really the only person holding you back from doing that. And so that is probably, if I could hit the button and, gun it to 88, I would definitely go back and tell myself, just get out of your own daggone way. Just do it. Just do it. Stop analyzing it. Stop, thinking that you can't for whatever the reason is that I've, put in my mind at that moment, and just do it. And once you start going through the process of doing, you learn and you grow and you realize I can actually do this thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'd say negative self-talk, that's a whole episode in itself. Ooh. There's so much.
That's a series probably. Yeah, no doubt.
There's so much behind it, but such an excellent point. So to wrap things up, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you, or is there anything that you want to promote?
Sure. If you're going to let me selfishly plug, should I give my cell phone number out on this thing or what? A couple of things. So, on the coaching side, Ghost Man Coaching, is the name of my group or my company or whatever I want to call it, I guess right now, my infant, little baby coaching, business. I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. You can find me on either of those platforms under the same name, Ghost Man Coaching. Don't kill me on my Instagram. It's not great right now. I'm trying to be intentional about, making it a little bit better, but it is very new. So please give me grace there. But you can find me on either one of those. If you sent me a message on there, I would definitely get it. And so ghostmancoaching@gmail.com is my email address for that right now, until I finalize the domain and all that fun jazz. And then furthermore, I operate currently a property services company called the Junk Luggers of Kentucky. We're in anything and everything you no longer need or want. Removal, disposal, recycle, and donation partner. We do everything from I got a new mattress. Where do I get rid of my old mattress? We'll come get it from you. To, I just inherited my aunt's estate or my parents' estate, and how do I filter through all of this? We can do that for you as well. Or I have somehow stepped my foot into a hoarder situation. We can help with that. Or I'm a real estate professional and I buy wholesale, or I want to flip, or I, want to play the real estate game. I'm a property manager and I now all of a sudden manage all these, properties, and I need contractors and vendors to help me, manage my properties better and to increase my assets. And so, the Junk Luggers is capable and able to helping people kind of through that whole variety of options. And we are also on the internet and all of the things. So Junk Luggers of Kentucky is our name. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, obviously just our direct website itself as well. And we're all over the state of Kentucky and we're also Southern Indiana for anybody who might be across the bridge here from us. And we give free estimates. So if you have some project that you need help on, please reach out. We'd love the opportunity to work with you in that way. And my team will take good care of you.
All right. I'll make sure I drop some links in the comments as well to make it easy to get to Dylan. Dylan, thanks again for taking the time, sharing the experience. Great episode.
It's been great. Sure. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you all for tuning in, allowing us to be a part of your journey. Make sure you share this one. A ton of great takeaways that I know will help people in their journey. Give it a 5-star review, drop a like, and get in the comments with your thoughts and questions to join the conversation, and let's grow.